If you're over 60 and you've got a six-figure traditional IRA, there is a decision sitting in front of you right now that could quietly cost you $40,000 or more. And the people pushing it the hardest almost never explain the other side. I'm talking about the Roth conversion. You've probably been told it's the smartest move you can make in retirement. Sometimes it is. I'm going to walk you through 6 reasons a Roth conversion can quietly backfire. 6 reasons that rarely make it into the sales pitch or the online calculator. And the very first one trips up people in their late 50s more than anything else on this list. Quick note before we dig in. This is educational, not personalized financial advice. Always run your own numbers with a professional before you act. Now, this video is for you. If you're somewhere between 55 and 75, you've saved between $250,000 and $2 million, and someone, an advisor, a YouTube video, maybe a brother-in-law at Thanksgiving, has told you to just convert it all to a Roth. Before you sign anything, listen to what happened to Robert. Robert is 56. He converted a large chunk of his traditional IRA in a single year, paid the tax, felt great about it, and then 3 separate problems hit him that he never saw coming. By the end of this video, you'll recognize all 3, plus 3 more. Here's the roadmap: the 5-year trap, the bracket bump, the Medicare surcharge, the lower bracket mistake, the tax payment problem, and the charity blind spot. We start with the 5-year trap because it's the one that turns a smart move into a 10% penalty. Here's what most people don't realize. Every Roth conversion you make starts its own separate 5-year clock. And there are actually 2 of these clocks running at the same time. The first one matters most if you're under 59 and a half. If you convert money and then pull that converted money back out before 5 years have passed, and before you turn 59 and a half, the IRS hits you with a 10% penalty on the amount you converted, even though you already paid income tax on it. That's exactly what happened to Robert. He converted at 56. At 58, an unexpected expense forced him to pull that money back out, still under 59 and a half, still inside the 5-year window. 10% penalty gone on top of the tax he'd already paid. The second clock catches the older crowd. Even if you're 68, if you've never owned a Roth before, the earnings on your converted money aren't truly tax-free until that account has been open for 5 years. The IRS spells both of these rules out in Publication 590B. So the lesson is this: never convert money you might actually need inside the next 5 years, especially if you're in your 50s. And if this is your very first Roth, understand the tax-free clock doesn't start the day you convert. It starts on January 1st of that year, and it runs a full 5 years. Reason 2 is the bracket bump, and it's the most expensive mistake on this entire list. A Roth conversion adds the full converted amount to your taxable income for that year. All of it. So take Linda, 68, from Ohio. She had $680,000 in her traditional IRA, and an online calculator told her converting was the smart play. So she converted the whole balance in 1 year. Here's what that did. It stacked $680,000 of income on top of everything else she already had coming in, and rocketed her up through the federal tax brackets. With the conversion piled on her other income, much of that money was taxed at 32, 35, even 37%. For 2026, that top 37% rate starts above $768,700 for a married couple, and one large conversion can push you toward it fast. Linda paid far more in tax on that single conversion than she ever would have, spreading those same withdrawals out over many years. The math only works in reverse. You convert in small, deliberate slices. Each year, you convert just enough to fill up your current low bracket, say the 12 or the 22% bracket, without spilling into the next one. Every dollar that crosses a bracket line is taxed at the higher rate. So convert slowly over years, Never all at once. Reason 3 blindsides almost everyone because it shows up 2 years late. It's called IRMAA, the Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. In plain English, if your income climbs above certain lines, Medicare charges you a surcharge on top of your normal Part B and Part D premiums. And here's the cruel part. A Roth conversion counts as income for this. Take Margaret. She converted a healthy sum at 65. 2 years later, a letter arrived from Social Security. Her Medicare premiums had jumped, and she had no idea why. That's because IRMAA uses your income from 2 years ago. For 2026, the standard Part B premium is about $202.90 a month. But the moment your income crosses $109,000 as a single filer or $218,000 for a married couple, you get bumped into a higher tier, and IRMAA is a cliff, not a ramp. Go $1 over the line and you pay the full surcharge for that entire tier. A large conversion can push you across 2 or 3 of those lines at once. So before you convert a single dollar, find out exactly where the IRMAA lines sit for your situation and convert only up to one of them, never across it. Reason 4 is the question nobody asks before they convert. Will your tax rate actually be higher later? Because that is the entire bet. A Roth conversion only pays off if the rate you pay today is lower than the rate you'd pay in the future. You're choosing to pay tax now instead of later. And here's the reality for a lot of retirees. Income often drops in retirement. It doesn't rise. The paycheck stops. For many people, their taxable income in their 70s sits lower than it did in their working years. Research from firms like Vanguard and Fidelity that track how retirees actually spend shows household income for most retirees steps down over time, not up. So picture a couple who converts a big balance the year before they both retire, while they're still drawing full salaries, sitting in a high bracket. They pay tax at, say, 24% today to dodge a future rate that might only be 12%. That's not a strategy. That's a loss they volunteered for. The lesson is straightforward. If you have good reason to believe your tax rate will be the same or lower in the future, your traditional IRA is doing exactly its job. Leave it alone. Convert only if you genuinely expect higher rates ahead. And stay with me because there is one big exception to that, and we'll get to it near the end. Reason 5 is a quiet killer, and Robert made this mistake too. When you convert, you owe income tax on the converted amount, and that bill can be large. The question is, where does the money to pay it come from? If you pay that tax bill out of the very IRA you're converting, you've sabotaged the whole point. Here's why. Say you convert $100,000 and owe $24,000 in tax. If you pull that $24,000 out of the IRA to pay the IRS, only $76,000 actually lands in the Roth. You've shrunk your own retirement account just to pay the tax man. And it gets worse if you're under 59 and a half. Those $24,000 you pulled out to cover the tax is itself an early withdrawal, which means another 10% penalty stacked on top. So the rule the smart money follows are simple. Only do a Roth conversion if you can pay the resulting tax bill from a regular taxable account, your savings, a brokerage account, money that's already outside your retirement plan. If the only place you can find the tax money is the IRA itself, that's usually a sign you shouldn't be converting at all this year. Reason 6 is the blind spot for anyone who gives to charity or plans to leave money to one. Let's go back to Margaret. After she converted, she mentioned to her daughter that she'd always planned to give a chunk of her IRA to her church. And that's the moment she realized she'd made an expensive mistake. Here's the thing, once you're 70 and a half, you can give money directly from a traditional IRA to a qualified charity using something called a Qualified Charitable Distribution, a QCD. For 2026, you can move up to $111,000 this way. and it's completely excluded from your taxable income. It even counts toward your required minimum distribution. That money leaves your IRA and reaches the charity without anyone ever paying income tax on it. But Margaret had already converted those dollars to a Roth, which means she paid full income tax on them first for no reason at all. The same logic applies at death. A traditional IRA left to a charity passes with no income tax whatsoever. So here's the lesson almost no conversion pitch mentions. If you're charitably inclined, your traditional IRA is the single best pool of money to give from. Don't pay tax to convert dollars you were going to give away anyway. Now, here's the however. After 6 reasons to be careful, I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't tell you about the one situation where a Roth conversion can be exactly the right move. And it comes down to 2 things most people never plan for. The first is what's sometimes called the survivor's penalty. When one spouse passes away, the surviving spouse usually has to start filing taxes as a single person the very next year. And single filers hit the higher tax brackets at much lower income levels than married couples do. So the same income that was comfortable for 2 suddenly gets taxed harder for 1. The second is the Secure Act rule for inherited accounts. Under current law, most adult children who inherit your traditional IRA have to empty it within 10 years, and they'll often be doing that during their own peak earning years, paying tax at their highest rates. For households facing either of these, a likely survivor's penalty situation, or children who'll inherit a large IRA, converting now, gradually, at today's known rates, can genuinely save your family a small fortune later. That's the real test. A Roth conversion was never about chasing the words tax-free. It's about one honest question. Will the tax rate on this money be higher later, for you, for your surviving spouse, or for your heirs, than it is today? If the answer is yes, convert carefully. If the answer is no, then everything in those first 6 reasons apply to you. So let's bring it home. 3 things to remember before you ever convert a single dollar. 1. The bracket bump and the IRMAA surcharge mean a big 1-year conversion can cost you far more than spreading it out. So convert in small annual slices, if at all. 2. Only convert if you can pay the tax from outside your retirement account, and never with money you'll need in the next 5 years. 3. The whole decision rests on one question. Will your tax rate be higher in the future than it is today? If you're charitably inclined, or you're just not sure your rate will rise, your traditional IRA may be doing precisely what it should. Now, I told you advisors gloss over the downsides of a conversion. There's a related move where that's even more true. The video I want you to watch next is what your financial advisor doesn't want you to know about Roth conversions, because it covers the other half of this decision, the half the sales pitch leaves out, including the timing tricks that quietly work against you. I'll see you over there.